Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette, and we're so glad you're with us to stay curious. Our video podcast is Monday through Friday, 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, but you can see our entire library, almost 500 episodes on Facebook, and we've got a couple hundred episodes up on our YouTube channel, and we're also on Spotify and Twitch. So I hope you enjoy our program today, where we're going to celebrate some Black history with three phenomenal African American astronauts and a little bit of space history. But Marty, I always enjoy looking at the space shuttle, space station built by 30 space shuttle missions. We've got three African American astronauts we're going to talk about today, all involved with building this incredible wonder of the world. I don't know how many wonders were up, but this is one of the most phenomenal things human beings have ever built. And don't forget, there's an app that you can download on your smartphone and follow it as it's everywhere it is around the Earth, orbiting the Earth 17 times a day. And we've got we got 7 astronauts on there. Marty, what did I do with my astronauts? I walked off with that. We've got Expedition 66 up in space. We'll talk about them tomorrow a little bit, maybe, to help you stay curious. Expedition 66 has got the shield of Route 66 across America as part of their logo. So, well, let me get a little shot of rocket fuel here and say hello to all of our friends out there. Hope Tom Usiak's watching in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And I'll bet Ophelia's watching us in Normandy, France. And Dave Stang, he hardly ever misses a show. So we're glad to see y'all. Carlton Bale, talk to him today. He's an outstanding launch photographer. We're going to line up a day soon to see a few of Carlton Bale's 600 rocket launches he's covered. So, Marty, we got to kick off today with the month of shuttles, February. We have 11 space shuttles there that we celebrate in space history. And incredibly, 5 of them are orbiting the Earth on this February 15th date in history. We've got STS-82 has the Hubble Telescope in the cargo bay and doing a service mission on that. And that was in 1997. In the year 2000, we got STS-99 there. 99 is on the far right, launched February 22nd. STS-99 is yet to, I had a mistake on that. It wasn't launched February 22nd. It was launched February 11th. My error on there. That was a mapping mission of the Earth, and they're about halfway from a very important mission to map some of the more remote areas of the Earth. And this mission actually penetrated into the ground, and they discovered some ancient civilizations that way. In the year 2000, STS-99, also orbiting February 15th in 2001, was a hard hat mission, putting a truss on that they attached solar panels to of this baby, the International Space Station. STS-98's wake-up song was Sally Ann, and that was in 2001. And another hard hat mission, putting the Columbus Lab up there on the space station in 2008, was on February 15th, 122. And 122's insignia is over there on the far left in the middle. And then on 2 years later, in 2010, we had STS-130, which was putting the cupola on the space station. And you see that in the middle there, the emblem logo is the cupola itself with its unique windows there, 7 windows. And everybody in the astronaut corps can't wait to go there. So we've got 3 more missions to get launched next week. STS-75 with our friend Andy Allen piloting that mission, and STS-133 with another friend, Nicole Stott, on her last mission to space and the last mission for Discovery. And then a Department of Defense mission, STS-36, top secret stuff. So, and we heard from Hugh Harris, the voice of NASA, about these top secret missions. They didn't even know with exactly when they were going to launch it. They were told to arrive at a certain time. So, and hustle the media there. And we're going to talk to Hugh Harris today, and we're going to have him on March 1st to talk about the shuttles of March, as we hope you enjoy this little segment of Staying Curious, of reviewing our favorite missions in space at this time, date in history. I'm looking here for, again, put my notes up too quick, Marty. I was looking for how many flights there were. I know 55 humans were launched in March and in February, and 11 shuttle missions. So, well, we've got a happy birthday today. We love to celebrate birthdays of all of our astronauts. Over 300 American astronauts in our communities doing great things every day, and this is certainly one of them. Happy birthday to Leland Melvin. Leland is 58 years old today. He's the only NASA astronaut to have been drafted by the National Football League. He was drafted in the 11th round of the 1986 NFL draft. They don't do 11 rounds anymore, by the way. I think they cut it off at 7. And he was in training camp with the Detroit Lions and blew out his knee, and then tried to go to Canadian football, and his knee went out again, or Achilles tendon. So such is the fate of some of these high-strung athletes. Melvin was a honored athlete at the University of Richmond, and he is in their Hall of Fame at the University of Richmond athletic team. The greatest spiders of all time. He's one of the greatest spiders of the University of Richmond. But his astronaut, and he loves his dogs. You'll see Melvin with a couple pictures of dogs. These are Rhodesian Ridgebacks, and that have a special place in his heart. 2 space flights, STS-122, Atlantis in 2008, and then Melvin flew STS-129, also Atlantis in 2009, a year apart. And then he retired to become involved with the Astronaut Office special projects and special education. Here he is with the Lions jersey on in the space station, in the shuttle Atlantis. And Melvin has segued into society, teaching kids. We love when we're looking at kids, looking at astronauts like these two here. He was at NASA's assistant administrator for education in 2010. And so still doing great things in the community. He has worked at different areas of NASA, including Langley Research Center, and still involved with astronaut education out there. So, well, part of space history is the leaders of space history. And on this date in 1961, on February 15th, President John F. Kennedy swore in as NASA's 3rd administrator. There's Leland building it with his dogs there. This man, James Webb, was sworn in as NASA administrator. Before I get into James Webb being NASA administrator 61 years ago, let me go back here a second to Leland Melvin and his beautiful Rhodesian hounds there. That we had Sharon McDougall on here, who was responsible for those spacesuits, and she, Marty, told us about how freaked out she was bringing these dogs in. They had to have special clearance to bring dogs into Johnson Space Center. They were not allowed, and she was worried that the dogs would scratch the suit, and because these were many people wore these suits. It was small, medium, large, and extra large, and you didn't always wear the same suit, and someone else may have worn your pumpkin suit, as we call them, on launch and reentry. So there's Melvin. Happy birthday to him, 58 years old. And I had that nice big build up to leadership of NASA. And James Webb was sworn in as NASA's administrator on this date in history. There he is in his official NASA portrait. That sounds familiar, doesn't it, Marty? Webb, the name Webb. Webb Telescope, yes. What's the Webb Telescope and James Webb have to do with each other? Well, everything. It was named after. It was going to be the next generation telescope after the Hubble, and some science people lobbied to have it named after this great administrator. We're going to tell you about him in a second. Marty, who's watching us today? And I failed to say hi to Marty Winkle behind our Streamlabs computer there, giving us a newscast feel to this on there. But we want to give a shout out to Christopher Mick, and he might be here, he said, March 23rd with his daughter. So we'll look forward to that, Christopher Mick, and a couple days after spring, the spring equinox. Hi to Professor Keith Sewell. He's bringing some of his astronomy class to a star astronomical club meeting we're having here tomorrow. Chalid Zan, hello to you, and Tom Usiak and Dave Stang are regulars on there. And we hope George and Bonnie Smitty are watching. Cheers to them. Ooh, that gets stronger all the time, Marty. And we have at the bottom there, oral histories, when we have them, are made possible by the Louise G. West Endowment. And so thank you for reminding us of that, Marty. Let's get into James Webb here. Okay, do you see at the bottom, Marty? You're efforting to, okay. No big deal. There we are. Stay curious. James Webb, here he is inside of the Gemini spacecraft. He was born in Tally Ho, North Carolina on October 7th, 1906. He lived to the ripe old age of 85. Actually had a heart attack and died. He was nominated by President Kennedy. These are political of course, appointments, all the people of the White House, including Administrator of NASA, as we have now Bill Nelson, a Democratic representative for many years from the state of Florida and senator. He is the head of NASA. And but James Webb was quite an extraordinary NASA administrator for 7 years till October 1968. All right. He was a politician from the word go, and that's what it took to go to the moon, was convincing Congress that we needed the money. We need it now. Yes, you're funding the Vietnam War, and you're funding the civil rights movement, trying to make changes in America while protecting America's borders, so to speak, in the Vietnam War. He was an experienced politician starting out at the House of Representatives as a staff member in 1930s, and worked for the former governor of North Carolina, his home state. At the end of World War II, Marty, he became a Marine, enlisting in the Marines, and eventually becoming a major. And then President Harry Truman appointed him Undersecretary of State, a big deal. For the U.S. State Department in 1949, and he worked his way up to various government positions, finally succeeding acting director Hugh Dryden as NASA's third administrator in 1961. And there he is. He was a hands-on type of guy. For 7 years, he guided America's lunar landing in the efforts from Mercury, Gemini through Apollo, and probably the most trying time of that for Mr. Webb was the Apollo 1 fire. In history serves him well in facing the Congress repeatedly, admitting that NASA had made mistakes, that he took personal blame for it, as the administrator, and that he should have had more oversight committees into the construction of that fatal Apollo 1 command module. And then and many people think he deflected the public criticism of it by getting more empathy, by admitting their wrongs and not trying to hide anything in front of the American public that was paying for this, and saw Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee lose their lives just when the momentum after 10 successful Gemini missions had us looking like we were going to the moon in a couple years. So the Webb Telescope is named after this gentleman, in case you've wondered. He's also responsible with George Mueller, another NASA administrator, not administrator, but business in the administration. Mueller convinced Webb with CIA photos of a giant rocket Russia was building called the N-1. And though it was top secret stuff, when Webb talked about that the Russians were building a giant rocket and we had to beat them to the moon with our Saturn V rocket, they dubbed it Webb's Giant. and kind of mocked him until it did come out that Russia blew up 3 times this N-1 rocket in 1967 and 68, trying to beat us to the moon. So that was why we went to the moon on Apollo 8 without the lunar module, because putting humans in orbit around the moon was just one step away from landing, and in a sense won the moon race for us in December 1968. And James Webb had a lot to do with that. I talked to Hugh Harris, the voice of NASA, who, like I mentioned earlier, is going to be on our Stay Curious episode once a month, talking about the shuttles of the month. Hugh Harris told me that James Webb was kind of a public relations enigma. He would give these long talks and speeches and circle around a lot of things and keep going back and going back. And at the end of it, you know, he could have said something in 5 minutes, Hugh said, that he took a half hour to say. But Hugh said he was a good guy and one of the best administrators from the standpoint of having a relationship with Congress. And like I said, that's what it took, the focus on the moon after the Apollo 1 fire, to get the money to go to the moon, because it was pulling teeth when a lot of America's resources were going to the Vietnam War. So, and it's incredible that the Civil Rights Movement, the Vietnam War, and all going to the moon hit an apex together in 1968 and 69. An era that I'll never forget, and Marty won't either, because he was serving our country as a Marine in Vietnam. And then he came to work on the Grumman lunar module that is held in Mr. Webb's hand right there on the right-hand side. The other orbiter that he's got up is the lunar orbiter. That's what mapped the landing sites. Boy, I wonder what that lunar module would be worth, Marty. That's the old one with 5 legs and the circular hatch. Like we have in our museum, we've got a larger scale of that. Folks, that's easily a couple thousand, maybe $5,000 model if you'd ever see one like that. Well, the Webb Telescope, named after this wonderful gentleman, and the Webb Telescope is shown in construction there. And that is with its 18 segments of gold beryllium mirrors put in place. And wow, everything is perfect. A million miles from Earth, it took its own selfie. Isn't that cool, Marty? That's a selfie of the mirror segments now being aligned. Each one of them have got motors behind them, and they're moving them just right. They've taken a star backfield or background already to zoom in and bring them all together to one point of light. So this is very exciting for astronomers everywhere, and we're going to stay in touch with the developments of this as they start to begin science. But that's an actual selfie taken. They've got a few cameras apparently, and where that mirror is about 350 below zero, all right? Because this giant sun shield that you see on the bottom keeps the sunlight off of it, because the way this telescope is designed is it's seeing things in the infrared. In other words, looking like a police infrared camera would inside your home, and see the warm bodies in the different rooms through the walls. That is what this telescope is basically going to do to the universe, and look through giant clouds of dust in the middle of galaxies to see what's happening near black holes and other things. The relays and all the communication with Earth is on the bottom there in this picture we see. Well, we want to celebrate a little bit of Black History, Black History Month in America. We have got Leland, Melvin, of course, birthdays today. But we've got a couple other astronauts that we want to feature for you. And we're going to continue. You know, Marty, everybody talks Black History Month at the beginning of the month, and I kind of like waiting until the middle of the month and let it linger on through the end of the month so that we can learn about some of these great astronauts of African-American descent. And first up today is Joan Higginbotham. Higginbotham, all right? That's a fun name to say, Higginbotham. I wanted to look up, I'm pretty sure that's her maiden name. She was born August 3rd, 1964. She's 58 years old, like Leland. She spent 13 days in space on STS-116 Discovery. and is the third African-American woman to go to space after Mae Jemison and Stephanie Wilson. We talked about Stephanie Wilson last week. She's an Artemis astronaut that would be cool if she was the first woman on the moon. Not only a woman, but a woman of color. Joan Higginbotham followed Kay Heyer, and then was followed by being an engineer on the Shuttle, Marty. She worked as an engineer, just like Marty did as an electrical engineer on the launch process systems. Not sure where Joan worked. She was payload. There she is, payload electrical engineer, working in the OPFs. She was, for 6 months, was a lead on OV 102, which was Columbia. And she later worked on shuttle payloads and reconfigurations. So she was an astronaut in 1996. She was going to fly another mission, okay, but she got an opportunity to work in private enterprise. So instead of being on the crew of STS-126, she left NASA, and Don Pettit replaced her on that mission. So she's been at Capcom and a lot of other things, and it's hard sometimes to find out about what people like this lady are doing in life, and I did a couple searches on the internet and couldn't find out exactly what she was doing, but I'm sure it's good things. Here is Joan again in space on her one mission, working in the lower bay there of 116. Let's see, 116, Marty. Let me look that one up on the shuttle scroll real quick here. She is, oh, that was a hard hat mission up there where she was, Kerbeam was on that with her. Polanski was the pilot. And so, interesting flight of discovery. It's 33rd mission, according to the shuttle scroll here. There's Joan Higginbotham a few years ago, and here she is all dressed up and ready to go out on the town there. So hope we get to talk to her someday, Marty. Joan Higginbotham, and doing great things for the African-American community. Chicago, Illinois is her hometown, so I would gather that she's in that area quite a bit. Another African-American we're going to celebrate is Alvin Drew, who was launched in space 11 years ago on his first mission of STS-118. Actually, that was it had been 15 years ago was his first mission. 2 space flights, 118 in 2007, and then 133, the last flight of Discovery, in which he was on there with Nicole Stott, who's a friend of our museum, and we've interviewed twice on Stay Curious. Drew took part on 2 spacewalks while docked to the space station. He was the final African-American to fly on a space shuttle, because STS-134 and 135 had no African-Americans on their crew. And he grew up in Washington, D.C., Brookland area. In 1968, at age 5, he saw Apollo 7's launch on television and told his parents he wanted to become an astronaut at age 5. And he certainly did. November 5th is his birthday, 1962. And he has retired, okay, and involved in some community affairs there in the Washington, D.C. area. So Alvin Drew, and 2 space missions, and let's see, 130, let's see, what that mission of 118 to the space station on my scroll here was Scott Kelly was the commander, and Hobaugh was the pilot. And Master Chio, whose birthday we celebrated, it was at the Northrop Grumman Apollo 13. He was on that mission too. That was a hard hat mission of endeavor. So, and here he is chilling out around the Space Coast here, it looks like, Alvin Drew. And there he is I would say that's probably at Udvar-Hazy, Marty, with Discovery there on the ground there. And he's got, see that 25 patch, folks? That's Mach 25. That is 17,500 miles an hour. Only astronauts get that patch. And once again, that's a cherished item, $500 or more, depending who the astronaut is, if you ever see those at an auction. So, well, Marty, we've enjoyed talking about our African-American astronauts. We'll have more that we'll bring you later this week. Next week, for sure, we'll wind it up. And he's got a couple notes here for me. Well, hello, Ashley Kendrick there. And hope that you're enjoying a wonderful day in Tennessee there, Ashley. Space Resources, you're watching us. And send us an email or to our info at americanspacemuseum.org. You can always get a hold of us. We'd like to know what resources we might be able to help you with there. And so... Ophelia, yep. I said hi to Ophelia a little bit earlier there. Ophelia's online there. Ophelia Sauterelle, she is in Normandy, France. And we appreciate her watching. It must be close to 10, 11 o'clock at night in France there. We'll find out. We're going to talk to a Capcom communicator that I've set up a Stay Curious interview with from Bonn, Germany, Cologne, Germany, I mean. He talks to the European astronauts as Capcom. We're going to have him on, I believe, next week. And Thursday, we're going to have on the mayor, former mayor of Titusville, Jim Tully, who is a space worker, but he is also the administrator of spacehonors.org. If you're a space worker, we want you to put your story up on spacehonors.org. It's sort of like a encyclopedia or homage to you and your career up there. So Jim Tully will be here Thursday. Anything else, Marty? Well, thank you very much, Marty, for a good, smooth show today. And I love our space station behind us here. Like I said, twice, usually it flies over America in the morning twilight for about 4 or 5 days. And then a week later, it'll fly over in the evening twilight because you're not going to see it at midnight or 3 a.m. The solar panels and the structure has to capture sunlight. So it's always going to be up to an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours after sunset. So go see if you can see the space station going overhead there. Look at that beautiful sight there. And remember 3 things that an astronaut, Nicole Stott, has shared with us. 1, we are all on a planet. 2, we are all Earthlings. And 3, the only border that should matter is this thin blue line that separates us from complete death and destruction in outer space in our warm, cozy Earth here. So, well, on behalf of our wonderful museum, Marty for helping me, and all of our staff here, I'm Mark Marquette, and we can't wait to see you tomorrow to bridge the space between us.